All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. People usually like to skip this first part because it's just me talking for a few minutes, but first of all, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight, especially with this being kind of a special occasion. This is the first time that we are hosting A2NewTech in this new awesome space by forum, which we'll talk more about a little bit later. But for those who don't know me, all the first timers, first of all, welcome. My name is Handyman. I'll be your host of A2NewTech. I've been doing this for about 2 years now. It's kind of crazy, but the time has flies by. But what we will do first is we will start with a poll to kind of see who's all out here. It's a little awkward since we both have the online people and people here. So I will read out the options. You can think about them. And then what we'll do is I'll open the polls for those online to do it, give them a minute, and then we'll ask you to raise your hand for decide which one fits you best. So the options are entrepreneur, wanting to start a venture, investor, marketer, designer, software developer, and others. So those are the options. Think about them for a minute. For those online, I'm going to open up the polls for you to select your option. And then for those who are like other, if you could have like put an option here, you can feel free to show what they are. Yeah. All right. Well, the good news is I think the majority of the people who are here at this event are in person, not to shame the people online. You have a few people only, so we got one software developer and one other on there, so majority of us are here. Again, like I said, more people like to skip this part, but get on the screen top. Go ahead and share those results. I already mentioned, I'll stop sharing them, but all right, for those in the room, raise your hand if you are currently an entrepreneur yourself. Quite a few, awesome. Anybody here looking to start a venture? Or maybe some presentation tonight, you get inspired and might look to consider it. Any investors? All right, a couple marketers. Any designers? A graphic designer or a UX designer? And software developers? A few. And the rest of others, I assume? Okay. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to finding out what the other is that you talk about. The reason why I like to start with this poll, obviously, is a big part of why this started was to bring together this community here. As you can see, it's somewhat vast and different. And in addition to celebrating the entrepreneurial spirit here in Ann Arbor, it's also connect people together and showcase that we're all here to support each other, which makes Ann Arbor a really awesome place for entrepreneurship. All right, so my part is coming to an end soon, so we have to get to the part where it really matters. But before we move on to that, I want to share that another great place for you to connect with the community is through our Slack channel. The link to that is madeA2.com /Slack. You can go there, you can go to the community, it's free, ask questions, share anything. Look if you need any resources, it's a really great resource for that. So please join the Slack group. And for those who are new, I just want to quickly go over the format. So we will have 3 presenters tonight, which I'll share shortly. They'll have each about 5 minutes to present their startup with you. After that, we'll be planning for Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions. They'll repeat the questions that come here for those online, and then for those who ask questions online, I'll ask those for them. We'll go through those 3. After that, we'll have community announcements. And we'll bring the forum folks to come up and kind of talk about the space and their app. And then, then after that, just mingling and connecting with each other and enjoying the rest of the summer while we're at it. So, before we move on, the last thing I want to do is thank our sponsors, starting with A2Geeks, Roger Grails, who I'm really excited that he's here recording. It's been a minute seeing him in person doing that, so that's really cool. Ann Arbor Spark, the Entrepreneurship Clinic at UTVs Law School, and of course Forum for hosting us here in this beautiful space. And we used to be in their garage across the street, which was really nice. It really kind of like startup-y cool because of the mobility cars being there, but I think we can all agree this is probably a better space again. But we can go back there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just quickly mention who the presenters are, and here are our first one. First is
You've got people in the waiting room. Is there something I can help with?
I think I should be. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, I'm going to.
You recording?
Oh, I will. Yeah, good. Sorry about that. Now we're on the team. We came here early to work out everything, and it looks like I am the biggest technical difficulty there. So we're recording now. All right. So we'll bring up our first presenter right now. Pull up my notes again real quickly. We have Brandon of DAVY. DAVY is building electric UTVs for tourists. So let's give him a round of applause. All right. Thank you, Ryan. You guys hear me?
All right, as we get started here, who here knows what a UTV is? Basically nobody, right? All right.
Yeah, this is.
So this is DAVY, the electric UTV fleet. So as we get started, what a UTV is, it's kind of like an ATV, but instead of straddling it like a motorcycle, you sit in it like a car. And so, you know, owners who have these could be like a farmer, or there's lots of trailers, so like Bogan or Wisconsin. So they kind of have some core issues. They're dangerous. These are high rollover potential vehicles with little sports car engines in them. And so people flip them and put them all sorts of places they don't belong. That means they also have a high total cost of ownership. So, you know, these are like $35,000 machines, sometimes even $40,000 for the super nice ones. So if you don't want to be an owner and you want to rent one, like if you go out to Moab for a week, you have a lot of rental friction. So since these are so dangerous, you have to put a high deposit down, and you're literally doing like pen and paperwork for your insurance and your rental documents. And then there's no global network for these experiences. You know, you end up going to Joe's rental shack. So DAVY's solution is a UTV fleet, and they're electric. But the core thing here is we focus on accessibility. So the way we do that is we make them safe with ADAS. That's advanced driver assistance systems. The electric drivetrain, really gives great digital control over the output. So you can do things, even as basic as traction control that a normal car would have, a typical UTV does not have. You also give a smooth integrated rental process. So we take that pen and paper away, put it in an app. It's 2022. And then also make it social with in-vehicle video. So what this means, the first thing when you get into one of these things, you say, hey, take my picture. You're holding your phone up while you're driving on the trail, trying to get a recording. So we take that phone out of your hands, give you the video, and what that does is the built-in viral marketing. So the progress. This is not a pipe dream. I can build vehicles. So we made a proof of concept vehicle this spring. With that vehicle, we got the first signed LOI with the rental company. There's 4 additional sites that we'll be launching at next year. And then I'm now building the MVP vehicle. And the drivetrain and batteries for that are ordered. And the design is almost finished, and that will be operating this year up in Wisconsin. I also have been accepted into the NVIDIA Inception program. We're going to partner with them to get hardware to develop that off-road across. So here's a sneak peek of the MVP design. So it's a steel tube chassis. It's CNC bent and laser cut. So it's very accurate, jigsaws together, welds up pretty quickly. And then it's off-the-shelf parts for the bearings and motor and batteries and whatnot. So we have 2 main monetization strategies for this. So you have customers who are already going to these rental companies, they're tourists. We can kind of scrape off the top of that. And then for those trips, the rental companies pays DAVY $50 an hour for vehicle usage. And then we also have a vacation club model for users who, maybe they live near one of these sites and they want to use it more frequently. And then so, they start to associate with DAVY as that brand. and then we pay the rental companies per trip to clean the vehicles off after they're done using them. So you notice I haven't said sales. This is a hardware as a service model. It makes it capital efficient and gives us some unique properties. So we have a movable fleet, so we keep that usage high. So in Wisconsin, you probably are using them less when it's very cold out. There's a lot of ice fishing up there, but not as much in the summer. But anyways, we keep that usage high for high profit margin per vehicle. We're also able to reuse components when they crash. So, if you send one of these off the cliff and it tumbles down, that frame is bent up, but those motors and batteries are still perfectly fine. They're the two highest cost components on the vehicle. So since we're not selling new vehicles, we can reuse those components. And then when those batteries are finally end of life, we have a direct path to recycling. There we go. Market size. So there's over 5,000 of these rental locations in the world. There's over 300 in the US alone. Basically anywhere there's interesting terrain, people are driving on it. The UTV market itself is growing at a pretty decent rate, at 7% year over year. But even bigger than that is the adventure tourism market, which is exploding at 20% year over year. You have a lot of post-COVID people trying to get out and go on these adventures. You also have more remote-first companies doing corporate offsites, and this plays right into that. So even at a very modest fleet size, this is over $1 billion a year revenue. And then finally, some more about me. So my background is electrical engineering at Purdue. I did EV Grand Prix, but then battery packs, motor controllers, all the wiring for vehicles. My career was in ADOS at ZF, so I worked on automated steering for semi-trucks. I've got some code on the road today, and I'm just a car guy. I race my own cars. I've done engine builds, swaps, suspension, any bolt and subsystem on a vehicle I've touched and know how to build. And with that, any questions?
First of all, let's get Brandon up.
I don't necessarily have a question, I have an observation. I've raised my hand and who has a UTV. So I've been going to northern Michigan since I was 6. I have a UTV myself, I've been riding the trails up north. And I would say the past 4 years, the amount of UTVs on the trails just in northern Michigan has just exploded. So this is great. I love to see that this is something that's being thought of and getting out there.
Thank you.
Pretty cool. With the ADAS and the automated driving, is that kind of the central feature, like to have a planned route for people to go on? I would think the fun is in going off the beaten path.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the question was, is ADOS the core feature, and is automated driving with planned routes, does that take the fun out of it? So actually, I think it's a common misconception. So with the ADOS and there's the autonomy with the self-driving, but there's also the basic control stuff like traction control or control, which starts to play into that, and you can add more features into that. But the more protection you have with the braking and the steering inputs, like corrective steering to prevent rolling, you can actually have more fun because you can start to play with it, but you always have the adult in charge.
Are you looking for maybe a trade-off between user input where the traction control would be kind of a surrogate safety feature?
Yeah, and especially as you get into multi-motor systems, the throttle, the torque command is a suggestion more than a raw output that we have with a conventional engine. So you take all your inputs, whether it's from an accelerometer, the throttle, and these camera inputs and that kind of thing, and you start to you know what the driver wants to do, but then you're able to actually get an output that's safe.
Actually, 2 questions. First of all, great presentation, thanks. First is, as the gentleman said, up north it's getting busier. I had the same experience. What about expanding to snowmobiles? What's the future trajectory of the company? And then secondly, what's next? What do you need? What are you doing now? What's next on your horizon? What do you need help with?
Yeah, so the two questions were what's next after UTVs, and the second question is what am I doing today and tomorrow? So I guess the long-term vision with this, I see this as the first fleet. So I definitely think, as we get an established customer base and brand there, there's definitely rigs to go out to. Kind of thinking off the top of it, the fleets that would have more of a software component with a boat there would be more of RV with the automation and ADOS, and maybe not so much things like a jet ski or a snowmobile. That's the future, who knows, but that's kind of my thoughts there. As far as today, so actually this week I started opening up 50 memberships in the Wisconsin area for that vacation model. So I'm definitely looking for first users.
How'd you land on the business model you've got today as opposed to traditional sales, or right? It sounds like it's kind of novel in the UTV industry.
So it's definitely novel in the UTV industry. For robotics, it's kind of where the hardware as a service model comes from. It's used a lot for agriculture robots and that kind of thing. Or especially around here, you'll see more of the industry 4.0 type stuff. So that's where the business model comes from. Really the drivetrain cost, the EV drivetrain is falling down the cost curve, and it's just hit a point where stuff is available that these type of vehicles can exist, but the price you have to sell them to recoup that still have a business is higher than with a traditional gas drivetrain. So this, it's a better business model that investors want to invest in, and also you have recurring revenue and profit margin per vehicle. It's kind of like, Uber makes personal vehicles more effective, but, not just using other people's vehicles when you have vehicles that don't have that safety already baked in doesn't really work. So that's why you have to integrate the fleet, the OEM, like we're doing.
So Brent, are you building the vehicle that you showed? Is that?
Yeah.
So because I saw stats at 40,000 vehicles, what would it take to, let's say, build 100? Like, where would you get the tooling? And why not go off an existing platform versus building your own vehicle?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So there is no existing electric platform to build off of. It's just not there. And you can't really modify the current platforms. The layout is different, and you need a different structure with the battery packs under the floor versus maybe so there's manufacturing reasons there. Building them ourselves lets us work quickly. 100 is still not that many. Like I said, most of this is off-the-shelf components, and it's just tubes that weld together. So as the design matures, that chassis manufacturing gets put to a subcontractor, so it gets contract manufactured. But the rest of it is just basic assembly, and this is how RVs are built.
How much would it cost to build one?
Yeah, so this first one is around 70 grand.
70?
Yeah.
70?
And then at scale, I see that coming down to 50 with parts and labor.
And how many trips would you need to recoup?
Yeah, so our payback period with just the first rental model is 2 years.
It's time for Q&A for Brennan, but you'll be sticking around to
Yeah, I'll stick around. I can answer whatever you guys want. I would love to talk to people and looking for the feedback. So thank you guys.
Give them a round. All right, we'll bring up our second speaker tonight. We have Jordan of On Arrival. On Arrival delivers personalized travel guides for busy travelers, made with hyper-personal, world-class recommendations so you can plan great trips in a fraction of that time. Give Jordan a round of applause. Yep.
Hello everyone, I'm Jordan Morgan, co-founder and CEO of On Arrival, and our slides will be able to say. Hold the mic. Sorry. Can everyone hear me? Okay, sorry about that. Hello everyone, I'm Jordan Morgan, co-founder and CEO of On Arrival. And you can think of us as a stitch fix for travel. I'd like to take a minute to recognize my amazing wife and co-founder, KT with Big B and Morgan. So we met at the University of Michigan in 2014. I have my master's in engineering. She has a master's in marketing. We make a really great team. Oh, wow.
1 second. I'll just resharing the slide. Sorry for folks on that. Sorry about that.
All right. No, I'm gonna stay here. For the last 8 years, travel has literally been our life. I mean, no, seriously, we live out of suitcases. It's incredibly frustrating at times. But KT has traveled to pretty much every state as a representative for global automotive brands at the auto shows. And as a professional basketball player, I've been to almost every country in Europe. We've lived in 6 countries, been to almost every state, and we're closing in on 50 countries in total between the two of us. We'll both admit that in the beginning we weren't great travelers. I mean, come on, it's pretty hard to plan for a destination. Wow, blank on time. Over time, we got better. And eventually, we started to plan for family. We started to make recommendations for friends. And we started to think, maybe there's something here. Well, there is. So we've talked with hundreds of travelers, and just about all of them agree that, wow, sorry, this is bad. We've talked with hundreds of travelers, and pretty much all of them agree that planning travel is a mess. There's just so much information out there. I mean, seriously, do a Google search. What to do and fill in the blank. You'll be lucky to get less than 1 billion results. What most customers said was this was extremely overwhelming. And it's time consuming, and you're still not guaranteed to get the best possible experience. It left a lot of our people we spoke with gave up on planning trips altogether. Some of them even stopped traveling altogether. Wow, I'm very sorry. This is actually our first time doing this, so. So, what we settled on and what On Arrival provides is personalized travel guides of hyper-personal recommendations, world-class recommendations, so you can plan an amazing trip in a fraction of the time. We map cities based on information from review sites, but also publications and reservation sites to find the best attractions and activities, food and drink, and bars and nightlife. We then layer context on top of those to deliver personalized recommendations to each and every customer. And so what you get is, essentially, we help you plan the perfect trip in almost no time at all. We deliver our recommendations digitally through our customer portal. Our guides are interactive and actionable. So we include photos, ratings, websites, social media, but we also include links for making reservations, purchasing tickets, or booking tours. We're a one-stop shop. You come to us, you tell us what you like, and we deliver, and you can plan an amazing trip again in almost no time at all. So the global travel market is expected to reach 700 billion in 2022. That's a big number, right? How many customers are we talking? TripAdvisor, the world's biggest travel review site, sees 500 million monthly active users. Now, these are people that are actively searching for travel advice. On Arrival, it sits in a unique position where we deliver recommendations that are curated, personalized, but also actionable. This ensures that our customers can have a simpler travel experience, and it leads to higher satisfaction. Now, how can we make a business of this? So you have our direct consumer, and so that entails selling guides or subscriptions. You also have B2B, so we're thinking strategic partnerships with travel companies, hotels, things like that. Lastly, we also have opportunities to white label the recommendation technology. In April, we launched our MVP. And we began selling guides direct to consumer on our website for destinations all around the world. And we have now, we're very early, but we have dozens of testimonials from customers that love this new personalized travel experience. It really does streamline and simplify everything, and it relieves the stress because a lot of people are so stressed out when it comes to sitting down and actually figuring out what to do. We've received some credible local praise from prominent local media, and we have talks right now for some of these strategic partnerships with travel companies and also membership groups. So you're thinking like business memberships and things like that, offering a subscription as an incentive to their members. So, while we recognize that, the consumer market is pretty competitive, we think that the real path to growth is probably in some of these strategic partnerships. So we invite you all to join us on this amazing journey. First of all, if you're planning travel, visit onarrival.com and get your personalized guide. But we're also interested to hear from potential investors and strategic partners in the space. And travel, AI, machine learning, natural language processing, these spaces. We'd love to talk to you guys. So thank you for your time.
We'll open it up to you for questions, and again, for the questions in here, so I'll make sure that repeat them for those online.
Jordan, first off, that's a great name, On Arrival.
Thank you.
Fantastic name. Can you walk us through a customer path? So let's say I want to go to Rome with my wife. Okay. How would I do that?
So at the moment, with our MVP, you would visit onarrival.com and you're going to purchase your guide. So right now we sell guides in packs. So we have 10 recommendations for $20 or 20 recommendations for $40. So it's very affordable. And you're going to go through our questionnaire and you're going to tell us where you're staying. You're going to tell us who's traveling, ages. We ask drink types, food types, atmosphere, what types of attractions you like. I mean, we get very as specific as we possibly can. And then what you get right now from us in about a day or two, depending on the size of the guide and the destination, is that personalized guide with all those recommendations. And we include personalized notes, we include the links and everything. So you take that and you just, you click and you reserve, you book, you're done.
So if I were to say, okay, my budget is, let's say, $500 for 2 days, 3 days, however, you would take that information, whatever's in the questionnaire, and then where does that information go? Who's doing the actual taking?
In the initial stages, when we were proving concept, it was manual. So we were doing this manually for people. It was taking us quite a bit, but we have actually developed prototypes for a number of cities that we can automate this process. And that's another reason I should say why we believe that the strategic partnerships has a lot of potential, because then we can hone in, like we prototype Detroit, for example. So we now partner with the hotel in Detroit where a guest on check-in is getting an instant personalized experience. So that's the type of route we're trying to go.
So you already have some pieces. How do you keep it updated? With like the new events or whatever's new in the city?
When people fill out our questionnaire at the moment, they also tell us their travel dates. So we'll keep that in mind when people are delivered their guides. But that's part of what we're working to solve with this prototype, and we're testing out this prototype is keeping fresh information. So that means continuously updating our information that we get from sources, and that's typically just from scraping the web and different sources like that, different APIs. We're trying to keep our data as fresh as possible.
How do you think about how much scale you need within a city to really deliver the right experience and mass for different types of people who are filling out your survey and different things?
That's a great question, and to be honest, I'm not sure I know that answer. We have a list of sources that we use at the moment, and it's maybe 20 different sources. And obviously every city doesn't have every source, so it's going to be a bit of a learning experience trying to figure out exactly how to optimize the amount of information and the actual recommendation process, but that's where we're at right now.
so actually just traveled in Europe and the Balkans. I see here in Slovenia and quickly. But I found it too easy to travel. I think, you know, TripAdvisor, Get Your Guide, Google, Airbnb, I felt it was too easy that it should have been harder. So, like you can just Google events in this city on this date, and it'll kind of already populate it for you. You know, go on TripAdvisor, see the most popular things, and then you get a rating system with that social media aspect of reviews. And I found it to be really helpful already, and it's free. So, I guess what's the differentiator?
Yeah, I think just listening. Thanks for the question, and I appreciate that. But I think even just listening to your story of travel. I think you mentioned 5 or 6 different websites. Our goal is to not necessarily generate content or be experts in content, but instead be curators of content. So that way, imagine building a profile with On Arrival, and we're gonna tell you across multiple spectrums of things. So we right now we source from Get Your Guide, from Viador. We have all that information. All of our information on locations comes from Google, etc. So it's more of a curated place, and we aggregate all the information into one place, so you're not having to go to different websites.
As you're looking to scale and incorporating machine learning and such, are you taking into account maybe feedback loops, getting feedback from your actual recommendations, see which ones the end user utilizes, what they think of it?
Yeah, 100%. So, are we repeating questions? Are we considering feedback from the customer? So, every good recommendation engine should consider the actual real-time interaction. So, as we build out our recommendation technology, that is one of the things we're working with a leading recommendation engine platform, and we're able to specify each different user interaction. So we have our raw data, but then we'll also be able to continuously improve our recommendations over time based on that user input. Yes.
So I actually love this because I love to travel, and it's always hard to find things that you may not have thought of that's not readily available, and I don't really want to spend hours and hours searching for things. Are you looking primarily now in like major cities across the world for common tourist kind of destinations? Are you branching out to more adventure kind of destinations? Like I'm from the Arctic and you go hang out with reindeer, for example. How are you deciding where to curate?
Yeah, that's a great question. How do we decide where to curate? And I think what's most important at this early stage, because we're so technology dependent, so information dependent, we'll likely have to focus on a subset or a set of cities and things like that. But over time, obviously, as you build up the technology, you can expand beyond that. But it would be almost an impossible task to try to go beyond a certain set of locations.
I think that's time for a Q&A. So I want to give a round of applause. For the first time. I don't know if I have the confidence to do this, so you're a better man than me, George. So I'm going to bring up our last presenter. We have Boyang of CPro. CPro is an online knowledge sharing platform that connects homeowners with experienced handyman professionals to provide virtual home services. So let's give Boyang a round of applause.
All right, before we get to the slides, how many of you own houses here? Great, easier job for me tonight. How many of you actually try to fix problems around your houses? Perfect. It's gonna be an easy job for you. All right, so I want to introduce you to CPro. It's leveraging this do it with me concept, and you can treat it as the telemedicine for your home service or for your home repair problems. So the home service industry is facing some tough challenges nowadays. Primarily, the less and less work.
Excuse me 1 second. For some reason, it paused the slides, so I want to reshare it for this. Sorry about that.
No problem. Should I start over?
Yeah, sure, if you want.
Well, the home service industry is facing some public challenges, right? So the main problem that we're seeing right now is the less and less workforces because younger generations, they're not interested in taking the skilled trades jobs. So that leads to a huge gap between supply and demand in the home service industry. And two main problems that came out of that is one, inflated labor cost, and two, homeowners are experiencing longer wait time. But at the meantime, there are also opportunities out there. So for the past few years, I'm sure you all experienced with COVID pandemic, people are encouraged or required to work remotely, and the virtual call technologies like Zoom or Google Meet has been well developed, and we have higher labor costs, which encourage more DIY projects at home, and people get more savings or spending hours that they can work on their home projects as well. So our solution is actually a two-sided platform that offers virtual call services to connect homeowners who are seeking for solutions or guidance to the experienced home service providers to guide, troubleshoot, consult, and solve their home issues. If we put all homeowners on a spectrum, you can find on one end there's do-it-myself users, people who tend to value money over time, and the solutions they tend to seek for are normally YouTube. Obviously, it's fast and cheap, but it could also be time-consuming because you have to rely on yourself to filter through those massive information online on the subject that you're not actually familiar with. You also don't get that interactive and timely feedback. Now, you can also turn to family and friends. However, not everybody has that handyman network or the almighty DAVY that you can turn to, or your friends or family members are not always available, right? If we look at the other end, it's do-it-for-me users, people who tend to value their time over money. And these type of solutions generally hire some contractors to do the job for you. Like I mentioned, there's huge cost and longer waiting time. So with Do It With Me, basically, that's the concept that we're trying to focus on. We are bringing 4 E's as our value proposition. It's going to be more engaging because you can ask prompt questions at our virtual phone call. It's going to be more efficient because instead of waiting for weeks to speak to a handyman or to start that triage session, you would only have to wait for hours or even minutes. It's going to be economical because it would only cost, compared to traditional service calls, it will only cost 1/5 of that. And it's also going to be educational. Instead of just solving that specific problem you're facing, you can also get that systematic understanding from the person who are talking to you. So it turns out not only homeowners are facing issues. Why would some of you might ask, why would home service providers be interested in this two-sided platform? Well, I did a customer discovery at a local stadium hardware as well as some secondary researches. It turns out the main motivation would be the payment. So our current actually Michigan average hourly pay for these home service professionals is around $22, and which is considered very low compared to how much you pay them. But if you use our platform, right now we're targeting at $20 for 20 minutes, and after our commission, the homeowners for average call that would take them 30 minutes, they could earn $16, and an hour they could potentially earn up to $32, which is a lot higher than their hourly pay. And some second reason could be high risks. They are facing extraordinary risky situations like roofing, installing HVACs. But instead using our services, they could just complete the job while sitting on their couch, right? And also having workload. People are working really hard these days, but with our platform, they get to choose when and how they want to take the call. That's not. Thank you, please. Give me a second.
Yeah, me.
Go back. Okay, so our target user for the homeowners is actually first-time millennial home purchasers. Why? Well, they're first time, right? So they generally don't have an idea about general troubleshooting around their houses. So they lack that knowledge and experience. And millennials, it turns out 99% of the millennials spend more than 4 hours per day with their cell phones. So they're going to be tech savvy, which is going to be our perfect users for our online platform. Now, there are also a large group of users who owns houses. It turns out 43% of houses purchased last year are purchased by millennials, and they're also the second largest home ownership group, which is at 34%. So how big is the market? We're looking at 595 billion from the Angie's List report from last year for the total home service industry, and that's excluding parts and materials. And the total serviceable addressable market is after looking, targeting our target customers and also reducing the labor cost compared to the traditional cost at 20% rate. We're looking at $19 billion. And finally, with our go-to-market strategy, where we're going to be focusing on Canton based on our study, weighted average study, Canton would be the best city to start with, and we're going to partner with the realtors there when they sell houses. So we're looking at 1.3 million for the first year revenue. Our competitors, for each of those activities, we already have competitors out there in the market. For self-solution resources, like I mentioned, YouTube, Google, they're free, but sometimes could be difficult, and you don't know if you always get that exact solution. For local contractors, of course, they're easy, but they could be very costly. For some of the similar solutions like HomeX, Nally, or Plum Junior, the main difference is we are a decentralized platform where they serve as a call center. They have hired employees waiting there to answer your phone calls, where we are crowdsourcing the entire internet to find the solution for you. Our revenue model. Right now, primary revenue model is taking through the commission. Like I mentioned, it's $20 for 20 minutes for the home service for each consulting calls, and we're going to take 20% of that. So for each call, we'll likely take $4. But there are also other potential revenue streams like premium subscription model, where we can offer unlimited calls with also discounted purchase on our platform. And then also in future there will be ad sales, like we can force, just like YouTube, force our users to watch 30 seconds of very targeted ads before they jump into the call. So finally, what we have done so far, I'm going to skip the very early stage. Where we are at right now, we launched MVP back in June, and we're still at very early stage. We have 10 users and 5 pros sign up on our platform, and we have collected feedback from them, and what we're going to be doing next is really based on those feedback, improve our MVP and build an app version of that. So thank you.
So, any questions? We got one over here from Mike.
No, I love the idea, because I'm not someone who just ends up paying somebody to do a lot of work for me, or has my father-in-law come over and help me out, right? But one of the things my father-in-law does, before he comes over and we talk about jobs, he always says, like, all right, what's your tool situation, and what are your material situation? So is there gonna be like a discovery process of an opening, hey, before I actually have the contractor come on and talk to me, this is the things that he or she's gonna tell me I need, these are the things I'm gonna go over, so that I don't come on for an hour and they're like, oh, you need this tool, you need that tool. I'm like, I don't have those tools.
Yeah, so the question is, would there be a way to find out the tool and material before the call? So with our solution, actually, the very first call would serve that purpose. So our idea is the first call is going to be your triage call. We actually categorized the home problems into 3 categories: small, medium, and large. Our focus is on small to medium problems. We can't really help you to solve the large problems like kitchen remodeling or basement finish. But for small problems, people tend to just be able to solve those, like broken toilet handler. This is from real cases from our past 10 users. Or how to change my AC filters. Those are small, one call, done. But there could also be medium projects. And in that situation, the first call would be, hey, based on my assessment, I think you're gonna need these tools, and you can get them or parts from these locations. So once you collect these tools, and I can tell you, once you have those tools, you should be able to complete those the following steps by yourself. So the used homeowner would think, oh, I think that's a fair ask. I think I can, he already told me what I need to do next. I think I should be able to complete these myself. That's when they would jump back to the second call and reconnect and move forward. We think typically would require 3 calls to solve a medium-sized home problems, because the first call is going to be triage, and the following call is going to be providing key information.
Have you thought about any insurance you might need for projects that involve something like water or electricity?
So the question is, what about liability, right, around houses? Yes, definitely. So there are multiple ways to prevent this. Number 1 is user agreement and disclaimer. We will always have that disclaimer pop up before users jump onto the calls. If you think about it, it's kind of similar to you taking instructions from YouTube. YouTube doesn't provide any insurance or liabilities. You're just following the instructions from that video. What if you got shot, while following the instructions? YouTube doesn't cover that. But what we will do is, number 1, we'll be very careful offering those type of work jobs that would have high risks, like electricity or flooding or issues that might be causing flooding. We will not be able to list those as a category at the beginning stage. At the later stage, we will certainly work with the insurance companies to cover those areas and make sure companies, not liable for some of those situations.
Sorry, this is kind of off the question he asked earlier. There's actually, I thought there was another revenue stream if you're telling people that they need to purchase this material. You can partner with Home Depot, Menards, or whoever to kind of funnel them that way and get a commission, right?
Yes, so that was actually, I just added that slide right before this presentation. That was our 4th revenue stream, which is sales leads, right? So we can offer like a 10% discount if you go to Home Depot and purchase these tools, or even for like stage 4 or 5, we could potentially ask the pros to just generate the list for you and dump them in the cart, and then send that cart to you and send it directly to, say, Home Depot's website, and you can purchase it online and go pick it up later or ship to you. So that's even more convenient, but that's going to be very later stage. That's why, but thank you, yes.
How do you plan on
how do we make sure that the pros or people who sign up to help is qualified? There are multiple ways to ensure that. One is, of course, background check. We're gonna ask some basic questions and see if they are licensed. One of the premium feature would only be able to match you with the certified licensed professionals, right? So that's why we offer the premium service. But in the meantime, there would also be two-way rating system after each call. If you're not qualified and if people are not happy with your services, you're generally not going to get that much high rating. And the next time, people are going to look at your review, so they probably won't pick you for the next call. And it's kind of just a natural system that would get rid of the ones that are not qualified.
Anyway, you got one last question? Okay, cool. All right, well, we have time for our Q&A. All right, so let's give our presenters another round of applause, all three of us. Others will change, so I want to now open it up to community announcements. This is a section of time where if you have something to announce, come up here and announce it, whether that's you're hiring, or you're looking to be hired, or you have a meetup yourself that you want to promote. So I'll go ahead and open this up. Looks like Michael here is our first speaker. Here you go.
Hey, thanks, Ty. Yeah, I appreciate it. This Thursday, Rachel's always there. This Thursday at Cirque Bar from 4 o'clock to 5:30, Cabinet Insurance Group and Ann Arbor Spark are sponsoring a happy hour. It's free to all of you, the drinks and the food. So come on out from 4 to 5:30. We do this the third Thursday of every month. And what time is Cahoots? This is the second Thursday? Second Thursday of every month. Cahoots also has a happy hour that you're welcome to go to. Love the ideas. You guys all did a great job tonight. The difference between YouTube and what you're doing is that they don't pay for YouTube. And so the moment that a transaction is taking place, you are responsible, you are liable. I know that because I am a small business and startup insurance expert. And so I actually work for Cabinet Insurance Group. I come to these things a lot, and I'm here to help you guys in any way possible with some of the questions. Here's a way to get them qualified. Ask every single contractor you have that they need to show you proof of insurance. If they don't have a proof of insurance, don't work with them. Okay? Every contractor out there, every subcontractor is required to have insurance. If they don't, we tell our clients all the time, do not work with them, because if anything happens, it's your ass, not their ass, that is responsible for it. So I'm around if anybody has any questions, wants to talk to me. I actually specialize in technology, insurance, and with startups and small business. So thanks very much.
Any other announcements?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Grant. I just moved to Ann Arbor. I am doing the MBA program here, and this came up on my schedule. I had really a little bit of expectation on what to see here, and I'm actually really excited that all these people showed up. Really cool ideas and projects. I'll give you a little bit of my background just in case there's anything happening in your world or anything in your orbit that relates to something that I might be able to help with, or I might be involved in the future with that you can foresee. I'm a payments expert, so anything with payments, you guys are more than welcome to come tap on me and say, hey, I need help with payments or anything like that, any ideas for payments. Anywhere you want to involve payments, I'm your guy. So if anybody has anything going on with an infusion of payment ideas, let me know. Thank you very much.
Any other ones? I will quickly share two announcements, and I'll hand things over to Forbes to share their announcement. So first thing is, actually three things. First thing is, if you yourself are interested in presenting at A2NewTech, or know somebody you should be, just so you get a sense of the different startups that came through today, feel free to come holler at me or email me at hi@a2newtech.org. We'd love to have you present. And obviously you can see the space is very welcoming and people are very, very kind. So it's a really safe space for doing that. Other thing is our next A2NewTech is on September 20th. So if you had a good time, do feel free to come back and join us. We'll still be right here. And the last thing I want to announce is I didn't mention earlier, but I build websites primarily on Webflow. I have a product side service called Flojo. So if you have a Webflow website and you need someone to support it, but you don't want to be stuck in a 12-month shitty retainer, holler at me for that. But with that, I will hand things over to Heidi, maybe?
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
All right.
I usually just scream at people in here. Amazing presentations. Wow. Great progress, guys. Congratulations. We also have a little software project that we've been working on here. And it is a e-commerce platform. It is a front end. It is the front end of, it is becoming the front end of pretty much every transaction we manage in our real estate and hospitality company. We would like to invite you to download our app by either Apple or Android using the QR codes. We're really interested to just test the downloading. So we've been we're still in production. This is a production environment, but we're kind of going through our final phases of kind of flow verification and functionality. We should definitely get Grant's information. We should connect with him on the final frontier of payments. But please join us and download this, give us feedback, let us know what you think. The app goes live probably sometime next Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. We've been working on it for like 2 years. So in essence, what it is it's an e-commerce platform that has stripped functionality off the front end of Toast. So we have our own food service front end, which is a lot more flexible than the kind of standard out-of-the-can food service offerings that come with a solution like Toast. We front end Airbnb, we front end our Tesla service provider fleet, we front end May Mobility. So this is a combined hospitality suite that basically allows us to manage all transactions, gamify, create a differentiated experience for our customers. So it will be live next week, but you all have a chance to give us feedback on just the download process tonight. And Matt Trueblood would like to say something.
Those on Apple device will need the test flight app. If you've done software development before, you need that app because it's still in testing phase. And right now it's still going through the Apple QR code. It won't connect right now to the test flight, but you'll need at least the test flight app first.
So anybody who helps us out with this, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate your support. We would love to get your feedback. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Any of us see us wearing the forum, Mark, we're happy to, if you want to see the facility, co-working space, we'll be available, let us know, and show you around, answer the questions, and yeah, we're just excited to have our first venue in space. So.
Yeah, thanks again for having us here, and do check out the app and give them some feedback. But with that, I think that concludes things, so feel free to hang out. There's obviously great food back there for you to continue to eat and do a tour. And for those online, I'm going to open up a couple break rooms for you guys to get together and mingle. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you.